Oh, I love this time of year, man. Let me just see if I can look at the thing. Look at the lights. Oh, brother. Lights, camera, action. There we go. It's the most wonderful time of the year, guys. It's Christmas time. I'm very excited for Christmas. You know, Christmas is coming up just around the corner, only a few days away. And who could be more excited about Christmas? You know, it's the best time of the year. There's the joy, there's the cheer, there's the presents, there's the gifts, there's Santa Claus. Who can forget Santa Claus? One of the ultimate characters in the world, really. You know, one of the most important people that's ever existed, Santa Claus. And you know, it's got me excited. It's got me excited. And in the spirit of Christmas, I gotta come clean about something. I have to come clean. I haven't been totally honest with you guys from the beginning, from the last 3 videos where I had this microphone, or this was the headset. I had this headset microphone. I got to tell you something. They didn't work. They weren't plugged into anything. They were props. And I think when it's Christmas time, you got to be authentic. You got to be real. You got to give back. So you're not going to see these again, most likely, unless I took them to some kind of mechanic. These are gone. These are out. These are out of the picture. You don't need to worry about those ever again. I've actually moved to a new mic. This mic right here. Testing right there. There's my new mic. And as you can also see, I'm not wearing my classic movie jacket. That's because I've been wearing it for a long time. I've worn it pretty much every day for, well, a few months. And it started to smell. So I decided to put on this sweatshirt instead. Before we get into today's video, how about leave a like on this video, or even a comment. Well, don't leave a comment, you haven't seen the video. Maybe subscribe and hit that notification bell, all right? And I've got social medias, those are down there too. Okay, so today we're talking about a subject that's on everybody's mind. We are, of course, talking about Rizz. Now, what is Rizz? I didn't know, despite being somebody from the Gen Z, or a Zoomer, as they call it. I had no idea what a Rizz was until I looked it up today. And then I had to learn what a Rizz was, which that term I still don't totally understand. But when we're talking about movies, right? Who has the best Rizz in movies? Now, it's an important question. Some might say Han Solo from Star Wars, or Indiana Jones from the Indiana Jones movies. But personally, I would say that the character in movies with the best Rizz would actually be James Bond, secret agent 007, working for MI6. James Bond is known for his womanizing. He's known for being a pretty suave guy. But then I started thinking, right? So you have the best character with Rizz, the best Rizz. Who's got the most Rizz? It's James Bond. We all know it's James Bond, but there's been actually 6 actors to play the character of James Bond. And of those 6, which of those 6 has the best Rizz? That's what we're going to figure out today. Is it Sean Connery? Is it Daniel Craig? Is it George Lazenby? It could be any of them. And today we're going to break down to see who has the best Rizz. And we're actually going to be calling this video, or the segment in this video, Quiz Your Rizz. Okay, welcome back to Quiz Your Rizz. You might notice that I'm holding the microphone now, and that is because I noticed that the audio quality was pretty bad on the first couple of videos I filmed, but I thought they were pretty good, so I decided to keep them. But this is Quiz Your Rizz, and we're actually going to take a look at the worst James Bond as far as Rizz goes. Rizz, they might call it L Rizz, actually. I don't know if L Rizz is a term, but if it isn't, I think I'm going to coin that term right now. L Rizz. The L Rizz Award on Quiz Your Rizz goes to, sorry to modern James Bond fans, Daniel Craig. I'm sorry. Daniel Craig has some good moments. He's good at action scenes, but he never really felt like the character of James Bond. And I think it's because he's always falling in love. James Bond shouldn't be falling in love. Maybe once an actor. One time an actor, he should fall in love. But, I mean, you had you had him fall in love in the first movie he's in, and then he's crying about her for 2 movies, and then he falls in love in Spectre, and I don't even understand why he fell in love in Spectre because the girl or the lady was not very interesting of a character. Yeah, then he had a kid, and James Bond should not have a kid. And then he died, and James Bond should not die. So Daniel Craig gets my rating as the L Riz Award from Quiz Your Riz goes to Daniel Craig. Okay, for the next worst James Bond with Riz, I'm sorry to say it because he's actually one of my favorite James Bond actors, but it's Timothy Dalton. Timothy Dalton, he does score. He gets a couple of pretty nice scores, but sadly, this was in the era of AIDS, and AIDS was everywhere. Everybody had AIDS in the 80s. That's why they call it the 80s, right? Because of AIDS. So he only got with a couple of ladies per movie, only one, or actually two per movie. But I also thought his game was a little weak. He didn't spit the best Riz, but he gave it a decent effort. He was more of an action-oriented James Bond. He had a lot of the best action scenes, but he didn't have a lot of the best Riz scenes. So number 5 is going to be Timothy Dalton, which hurts to say. Okay, on to the third worst or fourth best, depending on if you're a glass half full or glass half empty kind of person. I think I'm going to have to go with pretty much everybody's least favorite James Bond, including my own, George Lazenby. George Lazenby, he spit some decent game, but he only had one lady in his movies. But he did actually end up marrying her, which I think ended up being quite an important moment in the James Bond series. He got married, and then she died, which was kind of sad. So in that situation, his Riz wasn't great enough to save her life. I thought he wasn't a very good actor. No offense to George Lazenby, he seems like a cool enough guy in real life, but not really my kind of James Bond. I did like the movie, but not George Lazenby and his Riz. I got to say it wasn't great, but he did get married, and Diana Rigg was one of the finer of the Bond girls, or the Bond ladies, or Bond women, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it. George Lazenby is the fourth worst, or the fourth best James Bond when it comes to Riz. Okay, now we're moving into the top 3. These are the top contenders of Riz. And at number 3 here, we're going to go with, shockingly, positively shocking to some people.
Shocking. Positively shocking.
We're going with Sean Connery. And the reason I'm putting Sean Connery is because he tends to force himself on women a decent bit. He's a little creepy. There are definitely some scenes that haven't aged quite well at all. They have aged like milk, as they say. And although Sean Connery is a pretty smooth guy, he's got the looks, he's got the charm. But I feel like a lot of times, sometimes, or maybe even just some of the times, the ladies that are around him are kind of going, this guy is kind of creepy. I'd rather just give in. And I don't think James Bond should be having to do that. I think James Bond should be winning them over with charm and not physical force. So to all the Connery heads out there, I'm sorry to put Connery this low, but I think in today's society, we have to put him down there. And all I can say to that, if you disagree with me, is wake up. Okay, wake up, people. Wake up. All right, that's number 3, Sean Connery. We're down to the top 2 spots. Who could it be? Now we all know who the Bond actors are. I don't like the way I'm holding this. Hold this way. We all know who the Bond actors are. So it can only be 2 options. I'm getting that suspense rolling. You know what I mean? I'm getting that suspense rolling. Drum roll, please. I'm gonna throw in a drum roll here. All right. The number 2 spot is Pierce Brosnan from GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and who could forget Die Another Day? Okay, so Pierce Brosnan, he's up there. He's really hard to beat, but I only think he was beat by one person. But just think about all the girls, all the ladies, all the women. Natalia, Xenia on a top. Xenia on a top. Christmas Jones. Who could forget Christmas Jones? Michelle Yeoh, Denise Richards, Halle Berry. I mean, these are some pretty good looking chicks. All right, that's all I can say. And I always thought Pierce Brosnan was pretty gentlemanly, and he had some of the coolest moments in the series. He was also a pretty good action Bond, and he was also a pretty funny Bond. And he could even be cold-hearted at times. So really, Pierce Brosnan is like the best of both worlds, or the best of all worlds of James Bond. And especially with Riz, although he's not the best, but he does. I would still say he has W Riz, but a lowercase W. So that was my number 2 pick. Second best, Pierce Brosnan. All right, guys, the big reveal. Who could it be? You've seen it coming. You know who it's going to be if you're a Bond head like I am. Roger Moore. Who could beat Roger Moore at Riz? I mean, just think about it. Moonraker. I think these 4 ladies in Moonraker that he sleeps with. Maybe even more. How many in the other movies? There's like 4 in The Spy Who Loved Me. 2 in Live and Let Die. 2 in The Man with the Golden Gun. I'm not actually sure about For Your Eyes Only. I think maybe only 1. So we're going to omit that one. Octopussy, which, I mean, the title alone suggests 8 women that James Bond gets with. And let me tell you, he does. He does. And then A View to a Kill. I think he actually still gets 3 there, although he's like 60 years old and he's banging like 20-year-olds in that movie, which, is a little weird, but he wasn't very creepy with them. It seems he was so much of a gentleman and so smooth, and he had such Riz that the ladies looked past his age and saw his character. And that's why I think that Roger Moore is the best when it comes to rizzing them up. Okay, well, this has been Quiz Your Riz, James Bond edition. I think we've got the perfect list now of which James Bond has the best Riz. It's Roger Moore, but we also know who has the worst Riz, which of course is Daniel Craig. Sorry, Daniel, Mr. Craig. I should probably say we're not familiar. But your Riz was bad. Okay, it was L Riz. And that's a term I came up with, L Riz. And Roger Moore had the W Riz, which the W stands for winning Riz, I think. So, and then there's some in between too. Pierce Brosnan was pretty good, and then Sean Connery was a little creepy, and the other couple of them, we've already talked about them. So, if you didn't know James Bond, I really like James Bond, and there's going to be more James Bond videos on the channel, probably coming pretty soon, maybe even in the next few weeks. I'm not 100% sure yet, but we'll find out about that. All right, but in the meantime, if you didn't see that beginning part of the video, for whatever reason, if you were skimming to the Riz part, like the video. Now you can comment also because you've seen the video, so now you can talk about what actor you think has the best Riz of James Bond, although I think it's going to be pretty hard to beat some of the evidence that I've laid out here today. I think it's going to be pretty hard to argue anybody other than Roger Moore. I could maybe see you arguing Pierce Brosnan mainly because of Denise Richards. So if you want to go with that, that would be okay. And we can have a little discussion. But yeah, commenting is always pretty cool. And then, you can hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, all that kind of stuff. I've got an Instagram. That would be Jack Roney Movie Guy. And I've also got a Letterboxd account, which is just Jack Roney, where I've got some James Bond reviews up there. I've got some movies. I've got some videos or some reviews coming up soon on Letterboxd that are going to be related to some of the year wrap-up videos that I'm sure you've seen from other movie reviewers in the past. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and maybe you even learned something about Riz today, and maybe you can go try out some of those techniques from James Bond out in the wild. But I would say don't use any of the techniques Sean Connery used, because that could get you in serious trouble.